We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India-United States discuss enhancing defense co-production, military cooperation at Index X summit to work towards a free and open Indo-Pacific. Brazil calls for reform of United Nations at meeting of G20 ministers in Rio de Janeiro, an idea also voiced by India during the G20 presidency. Israel intensifies strikes on Gaza's Rafah. Israeli minister says talks on hostage release deal show promising early signs of progress. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on a two-day visit to Gujarat to attend Golden Jubilee celebrations of Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation to lay foundation of multiple development projects. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar to address second day of 9th edition of Raisina Dialogue 2024. And on to the details now. India and the US are key stakeholders in navigating the complex dynamics of the Indo-Pacific region, said Defense Secretary Giridhar Aramane while addressing the two-day India-US Defense Cooperation meeting in Delhi. The India-US Defense Accelerator Ecosystem. Discussions enhancing military interoperability to support the vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific. During the summit, the speakers explored opportunities to co-produce advanced military capabilities and create resilient defense supply chains. Discussions on deepening defense industrial partnerships, increasing collaborative research and testing facility access, mobilizing private capital to support critical defense technologies, and commercializing dual-use technologies. The consortium will explore pathways for defense and dual-use companies in the Index X network to test, refine, and integrate their technologies at premier testing ranges across India and the US. Well, Brazil opened a conference of foreign ministers from the G20 group of nations on Wednesday. Brazil blamed the United Nations and other multinational bodies for failing to stop conflicts that are killing innocent people. Foreign Minister Maura Vieira called for a reform of global governance as Brazil's top priority for its presidency this year of the group of the world's largest economies. Ministers from the G20 nations, including the United States and Russia, began a free discussion of current world tensions and ways to improve multilateral organizations, along with curbing climate change and reducing poverty. Lula has criticized the United Nations for failing to resolve the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians. Well, the Raisina Dialogue is India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics. Began in New Delhi on Wednesday. The theme for this 9th edition is Chaturanga, Conflict, Contest, Cooperate, Create. There would be some interesting thematic pillars, including on decolonizing multilateralism and the post-2030 agenda. Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis was the chief guest and he spoke on key issues of our time. Here's a report.
India's flagship conference on geopolitics and geoeconomics, the Raisina Dialogue, began in the capital New Delhi. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi graced the inaugural session, which began with the keynote address by the chief guest, the Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis. He said that strengthening partnership with India should be the cornerstone of Europe's foreign policy.
Strengthening our partnership with India, and I'm speaking about Europe, should be a cornerstone of Europe's foreign policy. And this is certainly true for my country. We have made good progress over the past years towards achieving that goal, but we have much further to go. And Greece has an important role in this endeavor.
The Greece Prime Minister further in his address talked of Greece's support to the reform of the United Nations Security Council to bring countries like India on board.
And by the way, Greece is supporting the reform of the Security Council of the United Nations in order for leading countries such as India to be represented at the highest table and in order for their voice to be heard.
Greece Prime Minister praised India, saying India's example needs to be celebrated in terms of how democracy can deliver strong economic growth and also deliver prosperity that brings social cohesion.
You are an example to the world, an example which should be celebrated, a demonstration of how democracy can deliver stronger economic growth. This has been your record for a decade now. How strong economic growth can deliver prosperity, and how, of course, the delivery of prosperity can also strengthen social cohesion.
Greece Prime Minister further said that Ukraine is much more than a local war on European soil and termed it as a brutal challenge to international stability.
We Europeans do apply double standards, focusing on Ukraine at the expense of wars and crisis in the rest of the world. And maybe there is truth in that allegation. But I would like to make the point here in Delhi that Ukraine is much more than a local war on European soil. It is a brutal challenge to international stability and the international rules-based order that India has supported and has every interest in maintaining.
Greece Prime Minister termed India as a consensus builder and voice of reason in an increasingly polarized world.
When it comes to shaping the direction of the global debate and addressing the great challenges that we face, India is now often regarded, and rightly so, as a consensus builder and as a voice of reason in an increasingly polarized world. And we too often forget that the raison d'etre, the real reason why the international system was created in the first place, was simple because nations large and small recognized that their true interest lay ultimately not in antagonism and in conflict, but in partnership and cooperation.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, while delivering his vote of thanks, praised Greece Prime Minister's keynote address and said, as India expands its global engagement, it has already looked at Greece as an important partner.
Our collective appreciation to Prime Minister Mitsotakis for what I'm confident all of you will agree was a truly inspirational and thought-provoking address. His message of democracies that deliver resonates strongly, particularly now, particularly here. Prime Minister Modi's presence amongst us, as always, is a reminder of India's growing engagement with the world, especially in the last decade. He has shown us why it is as important to listen and reflect as it is to articulate and express.
The Raisina Dialogue is committed to addressing the most challenging issues facing the international community. The theme of this edition is Chaturanga, Conflict, Contest, Cooperate, Create, with Jessica Taneja and Amritpal Singh, Shagnik Chakraborty reporting for DD India.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Greek counterpart Mitsotakis in New Delhi. This after the Greek Prime Minister was accorded a ceremonial welcome at Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. The leaders discussed defence, agriculture, security and issues of mutual interest. Here's our report.
Two ancient civilizations that have shaped the minds of the East and the West, meeting at a time when the world is looking for change. Prime Minister of world's largest democracy, Narendra Modi, meeting his Greek counterpart, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, at the Hyderabad House in New Delhi. The two countries have a strategic partnership that has growing cooperation in defense and security.
भारत में डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में को-प्रोडक्शन और को-डेवलपमेंट के नए अवसर बन रहे हैं जो दोनों देशों के लिए लाभदायक हो सकते हैं। हमने दोनों देशों के रक्षा उद्योगों को आपस में जोड़ने पर सहमति जताई है। आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भारत और ग्रीस की चिंताएं और प्राथमिकताएं समान है.
India welcomed Greece into the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative. Prime Minister Modi emphasizing a common resolve to support dialogue and diplomacy as the cornerstones of conflict resolution.
हम सहमत हैं कि सभी विवादों और तनावों का समाधान डायलॉग और डिप्लोमेसी के माध्यम से ही किया जाना चाहिए. हम इंडो पैसिफिक में ग्रीस की सक्रिय भागीदारी और सकारात्मक भूमिका का स्वागत करते हैं. यह खुशी का विषय है कि ग्रीस ने इंडो पैसिफिक ओशन इनिशिएटिव से जुड़ने का निर्णय लिया है.
Prime Minister Mitsotakis, who's the first Greek Prime Minister to visit India in 16 years, emphasized that India is a key player in global affairs and is assuming the role effectively.
We know that the world today is facing unprecedented challenges that require immediate and efficient action, from the ongoing war in Ukraine to the situation in the Middle East, from climate change to food, energy security. For all these things, for all these challenges, one thing is certain. In order for governments to tackle them, international partnerships and collective action is paramount. And India has a critical role to play in this endeavor. And we view India as one of the main pillars of stability and security in the broader region of the Indo-Pacific.
The Greek Prime Minister sees India's growing role well entrenched in the hands of able and visionary leadership.
Prime Minister Modi, I have found a visionary, a principled leader, and dare I say, a true friend. And the importance that we attach to our relations with India is evident not only in the increase of our bilateral contacts over the past year, but also in the partnerships we have developed.
Prime Minister Modi invited Greece to become a partner of the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. Both countries are keen to conclude a migration and mobility partnership agreement as soon as possible. The two great civilizations have agreed that UN and other global institutions must be reformed on priority to reflect contemporary reality, something that Plato, Aristotle and Chanakya would surely agree to. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, today is the second day of the Raisina Dialogue, and in a short while from now, Foreign Minister, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will address the dialogue. Meanwhile, Israel intensified its military operation in Gaza's Rafah zone while scanning the area to evacuate more hostages. In Jerusalem, Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz cited promising early signs of progress on a new deal to release hostages held by Hamas terrorists in Gaza amid talks conducted by the United States, Egypt and Qatar. The Israeli army said it had stepped up operations in Khan Yunis, a city just north of Rafah.
Now, here are ongoing attempts to promote a new hostage deal, and there are promising early signs of possible progress. We will not stop looking for a way, and we will not miss any opportunity to bring our girls and boys back home.
And more updates now on Russia-Ukraine conflict. With the 2-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine approaching, EU ministers visited the Berlin's former airport Tegel on Wednesday. German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser and EU Home Affairs Commissioner Eva Johansson arrived at the Center for Ukrainian Refugees at Berlin's former airport Tegel. Johansson said it was important to stand by Ukraine and its people as long as it would take. She added she was grateful for the support by German authorities, NGOs and civil organizations.
It's so important that we stand by Ukraine and by the Ukrainians as long as it takes, because we know that Putin will not stop, and we have to make sure Putin will not win. And what you are doing on an everyday basis, supporting the Ukrainians that had to flee, is an act of solidarity towards Ukraine, and I think it's our moral obligation to stand by Ukraine and to make sure that these Ukrainians can go back one day to a safe country, to rebuild their country, and also coming further on their path towards an EU membership.
And Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday called on Poland's leaders and European Union officials to come to the Polish-Ukrainian border for talks over repeated blockades by angry Polish farmers.
Дощ Москви на наших землях.
It is a matter of national security. We cannot let it drag on. There is a chance to do it in the coming days. I am also ready to be at the border together with the government. We have had enough misunderstanding. We should not humiliate each other. We should not humiliate either Ukrainian or Polish farmers. We need unity, we need solutions between us, Ukraine and Poland, and at the level of whole of Europe.
Цałej Европы.
And British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak visited King Charles in Buckingham Palace for the first time since his cancer diagnosis. Charles, 75, has been on the throne for less than 18 months since Queen Elizabeth's death. Despite postponing public engagements, he plans to continue his private work as monarch, including having a weekly audience with the Prime Minister and handling state papers.
I can imagine. Well, I can imagine. But everyone is behind you.
Italian firefighters and security forces rescued 2 people from a sinkhole in the street after 2 cars were swallowed by the hole. 1 car was parked while the other was in transit. The 2 rescued individuals sustained minor injuries. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Under the broader ambit of the Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, Indian Navy swiftly responds to distress call from Iranian fishing vessel. Holy relics of Lord Buddha to be taken from India to Thailand for showcasing and will further boost cultural and spiritual relations between the 2 countries.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Khurana, and moving on, Donald Trump has pled a petition to dismiss charges against him for holding onto classified documents after he left the White House. It comes after the former U.S. president admitted to retaining the material during an interview on U.S. cable news channel Fox News. DD India correspondent Nick Harper reports for more from Washington.
The judge in the case set a Thursday deadline for Donald Trump and his team to file pre-trial motions disputing the charges against him. He's accused of taking classified records from the White House after he left office and obstructing efforts to have them returned. Prosecutor and special counsel Jack Smith says Trump is now employing a relentless plan to try and delay the trial at any cost. The thinking being that he's trying to push the May start date back past the November presidential election in the hopes of winning that election and then getting the charges dropped when he becomes president. He's facing 41 criminal charges over the willful retention of national defence information. The documents were recovered back in August 2022 after the FBI raided his Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. And then on Tuesday evening, during a town hall interview on Fox News, the former president was asked about the documents, the host asking him why he didn't hand them over when the Justice Department requested them, to which he answered, "I didn't have to hand them over," essentially admitting wrongdoing and suggesting that he had the documents and knowingly kept them even after he was subpoenaed to return them. Trump has previously claimed that being president meant he was able to declassify documents as he saw fit, which under US law is not true. The former president is scheduled to stand trial in his first criminal case in New York next month. That one is in relation to alleged hush money payments he made to an adult film star. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Well, with the latest round of relief, the Biden administration has announced the cancellation of an additional $1.2 billion in student loan debt for about 153,000 borrowers. This announcement only applies to those enrolled in a specific repayment plan and covers those who borrowed $12,000 or less who have been repaying the money for at least 10 years. Recipients of the relief will be notified and will receive an email from Biden. According to the Department of Education, 7.5 million people are enrolled in the repayment program, which was created by the Biden administration. The administration has so far cancelled some $138 billion in student debt for nearly 3.9 million people through executive actions, the White House said.
Folks, I'm happy to have been able to forgive these loans because when we realize and relieve Americans of their student debt, they're free to chase their dreams. While a college degree is still a ticket to a better life, that ticket is too expensive. And too many Americans are still saddled with unsustainable debt in exchange for a college degree. This action will be a huge help to graduates of community college and borrowers of smaller loans, putting them back on track faster for debt forgiveness than ever before.
Well, the French Prime Minister says agriculture must become a fundamental national interest in France. Gabriel Attal announced a new package of measures on February 21st to try to support the farming sector after recent protests and ahead of the major Paris agriculture show this weekend. DD India correspondent Ross Cullen has more from Paris.
The French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal announced on Wednesday a new package of measures designed to try to ease the anger being felt by French farmers and also deal with the agricultural crisis in the country. Included in those measures, attempts to try to reduce the amount of paperwork that French farmers have to fill out when they want to try to employ foreign seasonal workers to pick fruit in the summer, for example. Also, the French government wants to speed up the payments that are due to France under the European Union's Common Agricultural Policy. And all of this is designed to try to deal with the protests that we've seen in France and the wider European Union by farmers blocking roads with tractors and trailers, for example, in demonstrations against red tape, cheap imports, high production costs and low salaries. All of this also in France comes into focus just 3 days before the Salon de l'Agriculture, that is one of the world's biggest agricultural shows, getting underway on Saturday here in Paris. Both the Prime Minister and the President are expected to attend, where they could come face to face with some of these angry farmers. In Paris, Ross Cullen reporting for DD India.
Well, India and China agreed to maintain peace and tranquility on the ground in border areas along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh. The 21st round of India-China Corps Commander level meeting was held at Chushul Moldo border meeting point on 19th of February. The discussions built on the previous rounds, seeking complete disengagement in the remaining areas along the LAC in eastern Ladakh as an essential basis for restoration of peace and tranquility in the India-China border areas. The two sides shared their perspectives on this in the talks held in a friendly and cordial atmosphere. The two sides have agreed to maintain communication on the way ahead through the relevant military and diplomatic mechanisms. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Gujarat state today on a two-day visit. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate projects worth 26,000 crore rupees and will also attend the Golden Jubilee celebration of Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation. At the celebrations, he will inaugurate multiple projects worth 3,000 crore rupees. In Navsari, the Prime Minister will also inaugurate various projects amounting to about 17,500 crore rupees, including segments of the Vadodara-Mumbai Express road projects, rural drinking water supply initiatives, and the Prime Minister Mega Integrated Textile Region and Apparel PM Mitra Park. He will also visit the Kakrapar Atomic Power Station and dedicate to the nation 2 new pressurized heavy water reactors. And latest in the Gulf of Aden, Indian Navy ship INS Shivalik gave medical assistance to Iranian fishing Al Arifi on 19th of February. The vessel was carrying 18 Pakistani crew members. Indian warship provided specialist medical advice and critical medicines to the distressed crew. INS Shivalik is deployed in the region in consonance with Indian Navy's mandate of maritime security operations under the broader ambit of the Prime Minister's vision of Sagar, security and growth for all in the region. Well, in a historic and momentous event, the revered relics of Lord Buddha, along with those of his esteemed disciples, Arahata Sariputra and Arahata Maudgaliana, are set to embark on a sacred journey to Thailand. This unprecedented exposition marks the first time that the holy relics of Lord Buddha and his disciples will be showcased together. It is another historic milestone in India-Thailand relations and will further boost cultural and spiritual relations between the two countries. Additionally, the holy relics of Arahata Sariputra and Arihata Maudgaliana, currently residing at Sachi, have been brought to Delhi in preparation for the journey to Thailand, further enriching this sacred expedition. The sacred journey will culminate on the 19th of March 2024, with the relics being escorted back to their respective homes, concluding a historic and spiritually enriching exposition in Thailand. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. Devotees lit diyas or earthen lamps and performed Maha Arti at India's Gomti Ghat in Gujarat state yesterday. The Maha Arti was performed ahead of Prime Minister's visit to the state. Over 15 injured in a bus and tractor collision in India's Madhya Pradesh state. The accident occurred when the bus travelling along the Hazari route collided with the tractor, resulting in significant damage to both vehicles and injuries to passengers on board. India's Jammu and Kashmir is set to organize two-day Overhaul Winter Carnival from 24th of February. The event, slated for a two-day extravaganza, is aimed at promoting the picturesque of Overhaul and boosting tourism in the region. Various aspects of the carnival include cultural programs, trekking, snow games, etc. And in sports, the fourth edition of Khelo India University Games are underway in northeastern city of Guwahati. Basketball, kabaddi, swimming, rugby, tennis were some of the sports in which athletes from various universities across the country are participating. The players were highly satisfied with the arrangement made by the authorities. Few players were participating for the first time in such a big event. Speaking to DD India, winner team of India Women's Kabaddi, Chandigarh University, spoke about how challenging it was for them to reach the spot.
We are feeling very proud that we have clinched gold medal for Chandigarh University. It's the first time that Chandigarh University women's are participating in the Khelo India University Games and we won gold. I am feeling very good that my team has put a tremendous performance. We lost to Pune in the pool stage, so we were prepared this time and played according to our plans.
Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.